Hey guys, it's Amber Storm, and today we got a bit of a different thing. I'm actually starting kind of a new mini-series of discussion videos that I'm going to call Amber Rambles. Yes, I know, I just thought of the stupidest title possible to name this thing. So these are all with no scripts. These are just me thinking off the top of my head and saying my thoughts. So I thought it'd be kind of interesting just to see my raw opinions and thoughts come out instead of stuff that I've all typed up on a script. So, because I thought that just sounds more interesting, and also I do not have the attention span to write a proper script for my videos. So it kills two birds with one stone. Alright guys, so with that introduction out of the way, I should get into the topic of this video. So, you guys can probably guess by the title, this is things that I want to see in Fire Emblem 15. This is going to be the gameplay aspect of this two-part video. The second part, I'm not sure when I'll upload it, because I don't have much time to do this recording, but, excuse me, this first video will be mainly focusing on the gameplay elements and stuff that I want and do not want to see in Fire Emblem 15. So yeah, with that, let's actually get underway. So what we're going to start off first is we're going to start off with some gameplay, because I feel that's the core of any Fire Emblem game. Also, if my mic sounds a bit bad, it's because I'm using a tablet. My laptop microphone is absolutely god-awful. You do not want me using that. So, like I was saying, gameplay is the core of a Fire Emblem game, and it hasn't changed that much from Fire Emblem 1. You have your basic units, you have your lords, you have your cavaliers, you have your archers, your knights, and all that. You're going to go through the map, depending on what the chapter is, rout the enemy, defeat the boss, defend the chapter. You're going to stay the same. You're going to move up next to the enemy, or two spaces if you're an archer. You're going to select the attack. You're going to select the weapon. You're going to go. There's going to be the RNG, all that. Fates and Awakening have kind of added things to that have given the series a bit of a negative effect. Positive and negative. Mainly the waifu thing. And I don't have to explain the waifu thing for people. But I'm sure most of you have at least seen one comment about you're a fucking waifu fag. A lot of the newer fans obsessing over their waifus, such like that. And I feel like that is definitely a negative, but also at the same time, I don't think it can be fixed that much. That's something that more or less comes down to how the characters are built and the culture that Fire Emblem is now kind of put, like, what's the word? Marketed towards. Like, Fire Emblem isn't really marketed towards, like, the tactical players. They're marketed more towards the anime people now. That's why Tokyo Mirage Sessions is a thing. But something you could do to help try to fix it as much as possible is supports. Supports have been around. I can't remember the first game that supports were in off the top of my head. I'll try to put an annotation saying what game they were in first. But I hate myself for not figuring out which one they are. But they're still, for the past few games, like Awakening, Fates, as well as the GVA eras, they are an important part. They give a lot of backstory to the characters, because with a game like Fire Emblem, it's hard to put every single member of the cast into the story, have a huge role, because there's so many characters. Awakening especially, or Awakening and Fates as well, I think if you count capturable units and hidden units, I think there's somewhere around 86 units in Fates. So that gives you kind of an example. And Fates' thing is that every character has these giant support pools. Like, there's so many characters that they could support with. So the supports come out really clunky. Like, they feel kind of just like mass produced. It's like, okay, this is good. They didn't try to make anything overly great, because there's so many supports that they don't have time to make all of them good. And I feel like that's a huge problem, because with a cast as big as Fates, and with so many supports to do, there's so much potential to give each of them like their own unique little story to them, but most of them just turn out to be gags or slice of life or simple things like that, and nothing overly deep. I'm trying to think of one that I think is emotionally deep. God, I can't think. Korin and Kaze, maybe? I don't know. I can't think of one that's super deep. Um, but yeah, it's like, so I feel the solution for that is simply make the support pool smaller. Uh, if you played the GBA era games, the support pools were usually like, I don't know, like six, I believe was the number. Like 6, 7 supports. The Lords usually got slightly bigger support pools because they're the main characters of the game. And I think that's good. If you keep the support pool smaller, then you could focus more on flushing out each of the characters instead of just making these generic slice of life supports. And so that kind of leads into the next point which I have, which is kind of the reason why all these supports existed, was for the children characters. And a lot of people thought that the children should not be brought back in Fates, and they were only brought back because they were such a prominent part of Awakening, and people really liked it in Awakening. And the children was actually probably one of my favorite parts of Awakening too. I am not a huge Awakening fan. I didn't enjoy the game very much, but I did like the children concept a lot. Like, same within Genealogy of the Holy War. That was a really interesting concept. But Fates was really forced with it. Like, the Deep Realms is probably one of the biggest problems Fates has, because it's so bizarre and makes no sense at all. So I think, unless it's done properly, like something like Genealogy of the Holy War, which would be amazing if it was done like that, I don't think the children characters should return to the game. I think you should just focus on trying to flush out the main cast of characters, and you can even make the main cast of characters larger because there's no children units. And because a lot of the children units kind of are based on, like, children units like Kana and Morgan just obsess over their parents constantly. And that's kind of annoying. And I feel if you could remove maybe those characters, those types of characters who just are all like, or like characters like Hizame, where it's like, it's not a phase, Dad. If you remove those characters and just plop in more interesting ones, I think it could be better. But I like a lot of the children characters. I think the children characters, for the most part, are some of the best parts of Fates. But I think if they were not made as children characters and kind of removed the aspects of, I want to make my parents proud, or like I want to get mommy to notice me, and replaced it with more complex stuff, then it'd be good. So yeah, I don't think children characters should return. They kind of confuse the plot, they make it convoluted, and I think that if you can take some of the concepts of children and remove the parental aspects, they could be better. So that's kind of supports and all that. So now I think go into actual gameplay now. So the weapon, probably one of the biggest changes Fates had, gameplay-wise, was the weapon triangle. Bows were added to the weapon triangles, magic were added to the main weapon triangle, and then hidden weapons were added as well. And I really liked it. I really liked bows being incorporated into the weapon triangle, because they'd always been outside the weapon triangle for so long. And I like that aspect a lot. I liked hidden weapons. I think they were good. Some people think hidden weapons are overpowered because they debuff stats so much. I don't believe that. I think they're fine. Maybe at the very least, you could maybe debuff their might or something, but even then, they don't have that high might, so it's not that bad. But the thing is, magic was made part of the weapon triangle. Like, the new weapon triangle. And honestly, I wish that they could bring the old magic triangle back. If you didn't know, there was a weapon triangle, and then there was a magic triangle in some of the older games. And I think that'd be a good idea, because it would give you multiple layers of strategy. And as for how the newer weapon triangle would work if you remove magic, I'm not sure how that would work. Maybe they could add something new to replace magic, like a new weapon type, like hidden weapons, like maybe, I don't know, something like brass knuckles or something. Like, I don't know, we've had a fighter since almost the original. Can you just imagine fighters going around beating the shit out of stuff? Like berserkers just running around the battlefield punching shit instead and like throwing axes? That'd be kind of cool, but I mean, it might not make much sense, but like seriously, it's you're riding on Pegasuses and shit turned into dragons. Fire Emblem doesn't make that much sense when you really think about it. Or even you could try adding dragon stones and beast stones to the weapon triangle. That it might not make that much sense, but it's another option you could think of. And have the magic triangle be a thing now. You have 2 weapon triangles to deal with. So yeah, that's kind of what I think about weapon triangle. I like it. I think hidden weapons should stay around. I think they should keep the whole bows and axes, beat lances as hidden weapons and all that such, and just try to find a new weapon to replace magic and give us the magic triangle. And the other thing they did with weapons, which was the thing I did not like, was they removed weapon durability and gave the weapons these crazy weird secondary effects, which I did not like, because weapon durability has been around, I think it's been in every Fire Emblem game, except Fates. I'm pretty sure. I know if I'm wrong, someone's going to correct me, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. But they're not in Fates. And instead we get these crazy things, like, I like what, like, silver weapons. Silver weapons were probably the biggest problem I have. Is that silver weapons suck ass. They lower your stats. Why would you use a weapon that could lower your stats when you could just, I don't know, farm the lottery shop for a couple steel shurikens and forge one with the same might? Why would you do that? It makes no sense. And speaking of steel, I kind of like the steel weapons lower your speed, because it kind of reminds me of the old Constitution system, Constitution and Weight, which I think they should bring back. I do like the Constitution system, because it makes it can kind of work to balance stuff, because every unit has their own Constitution, every weapon has their own weight, and it weighs down. It kind of gives a more realistic feeling, because in wartime, you're not going to be carrying around a hammer and just running around for days. No, the hammer is going to slow you down because it's a giant hammer. Have you actually tried to ever lift up a sludge hammer before? Those things are heavy as shit. You could not just run around with that thing unless you're like fit as fuck. But and that's kind of what I like. It gives a bit more realism. And I know I just said Fire Emblem isn't realistic, but still, yeah, I'm even a complete hypocrite that I just realized that. But still, it's just something I like. It's like personal bias. And the problem the Steel Sword had, they tried to replicate that, but then it slows down all units. Like, for example, knights usually had a higher constitution, so they would not be slowed down by such. So that was good. But then in this game, you have a Steel Lance. Knights are slowed down by that. And I mean, yes, generals do get wary fighter, but until they do, you're pretty much stuck with an Iron Lance, because 3 difference in a Fire Emblem game in speed can make the difference between something doing 3 damage and something doing 6 damage, which in the early game, which is where you'll be before getting wary fighter, can completely screw you over. So that's kind of my logic with that. I think that durability should come back and constitution should come back. But I feel like Constitution should be a bit more balanced. Like, some units had extremely low Constitution, and some units had way too high Constitution. I think what should be done is there should be kind of a base Constitution rate for the class. Like, Knights have maybe space 10 Constitution, Cavaliers have 6, Archers have 5, and then maybe, like, each unit could have +1 or 2 Constitution based on what they are. Like, it shouldn't be ridiculous. Like, one knight shouldn't have 10 Constitution and another knight have 15 Constitution. Stuff like that. I think it should be a bit more balanced. Maybe a knight has 11 and another one has 12. Yeah, so that's the whole thing on weapon durability. As for pair up is really kind of it's kind of a split way, because some people like pair up, some people hate pair up. In Fates, most people could agree that pair up in Awakening was busted as hell. It was incredibly broken. If you had two units with an S support or even an A support, you could completely decimate stuff. I remember it got to the point where I got really bored of Awakening, so I completely broke the game. I got Sever with Gale Force and Cordelia with Gale Force, and I would just solo maps. I could just solo maps with them because they would just come in, they would dual strike each other, they wouldn't get hit, they'd get Gale Force, I'd just run around the map and completely shred everything to pieces. And yeah, that was broken. But Fates, I like Fates' system. The dual strikes and the dual guards, that's good. However, I feel that Fates had a really big problem with its growth rates, especially in HP. Mainly in HP, because HP scaling wasn't that good in Fates. So in the later game, you had to rely a lot more on dual guards because you had so much less HP than in other games. Like seriously, if you, I'm playing through Conquest again. I think I have FE at level 10 with 38 HP. If you had a level 10 general in certain other Fire Emblem games with 38 HP, that would be awful. I remember when I went through Sacred Stones, I had I had Lute, who was a level 3 mage, and she only had 6 less HP than a level 10 general, who was 7 levels higher than her. Like that just kind of goes to show kind of the HP scaling. So I feel that the next game should try to balance out HP a bit more, give higher HP growth, like in Awakening. I remember when I was first looking through Birthright HP growth, because back when I had first started playing, Birthright was my first Fire Emblem game, and then I looked at Awakening growth, and I remember the first one I looked at was Stall, and I remember like looking at Xander's growth, it was like 55. I'm like, hey, that's a pretty decent one. And then I look at Stall, and I'm seeing Stall rocking that 95 growth. I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? Why does this man have 95? And then, so yeah, that's kind of just an example. So I think that, yes, pair-up should stay, the Fates version with dual strikes, but they should work to balance it out more. With making it so that dual guards and dual strikes are balanced in usage, because I found that I would just use dual guards. I would never use dual strikes, really, in the later game. I would just pair up, and I would just do that. I might have one unit that I would go around doing dual strikes if it was an odd number chapter, but most of them are even numbered. So, yeah, that's it for pair-ups. What other aspects of gameplay is there? Oh, yeah. Balancing. This is mainly a jab at Revelations, because I really want to make a jab at Revelations at this point. The next Fire Emblem game has to have good balancing, because you got these, and this statement's going to apply to Birthright and Revelations. You have these god-awful characters like Rinka with these shitty bases. Like, in Revelations, she has a fighter with base 8 strength and the worst club in the game. Like, I think she has 13 attack, and her joining chapter on Lunatic, she does maybe 2 damage. So you have these absolute shit characters, and then you have the god himself, Ryoma, who is the actual fucking king of Fates. Literally, as Mangs described it, a walking cheat code. So the balancing is so bad in some of Fates' aspects, especially Revelations. So the next Fire Emblem game, they have to work on balancing characters. And I think that's probably the thing they have to work on the least, because I feel that Birthright and Conquest were both very competent in their bases. I would like if Selena had a bit more strength in Conquest, but that's the only real complaint I can think of for the non-Revelations game. That and Ryoma should have been nerfed. So yeah, that's mostly what I have to talk about in terms of gameplay. Oh yeah, there is map design. Map design isn't really an element of the gameplay like the weapon triangle stuff, but it still is a really important part of every Fire Emblem game. And it's one that Fates, once again, was extremely hit or miss on because of the dual routes. because Birthright's maps were very, with the exception of Camilla's map, which I did enjoy, a lot of Birthright's maps felt easy, or you were kind of slowed down. I remember the Burning Falls and Ninja Village were the two ones I could think of where I felt kind of annoyed because Ninja Village because it was getting whittled away, and Burning Falls because if you fucked up, you would be completely boned if you hadn't predicted the holes and all that such. And aside from that, I actually really like Burning Falls as a chapter. I know people hate it, but I actually kind of like it. But Conquest did it amazingly, with the exception of Fuga's Funhouse, or Winds of Change for those of you who are not in a funny mood. With the exception of that, Conquest was amazing, and I feel like Conquest should do that. They should stick with the Conquest level designs, because they have this really interesting opportunity with Fire Emblem 15, where, oh yes, Awakening map design was a bit easier, and it was probably some of my least favorite map design in the franchise, but still, they have this opportunity because they have Conquest now. And so I imagine a lot of Fates players have played through Conquest, and they have seen these map designs, these puzzle-like things with Conquest, like the archers with counter and working your way around that, unless you play on easy. Do the archers have counter on easy? I'm not sure. I'll look that up. But just all these different puzzle pieces that you have to fit together. I'm molding my hands like I'm playing a Rubik's Cube. But these pieces you have to fit together to get to complete the level, instead of just, I am going to send Ryoma in here and he is going to kill everything. That is not fun. Like, I guess it could be sort of fun to watch Ryoma just go, you die now, and just crit everything. Ryoma's insane. Honestly, I think I should just make a video on how Ryoma is broken. But, but just more interesting map design is kind of the thing I want. And they have the interesting thing, because people have played Conquest now. So they actually know how to do map design now. They know what tricky map design is like. They know how to solve these puzzles. So I feel like if they take a step down and go back to the Awakening Birthright design maps, it would be a huge detriment to the franchise, and it'll be a huge blow after the amazing gameplay that is Conquest. I hate Conquest's story, but I will defend that gameplay to the death. That gameplay was amazing. And there's one more aspect, and I saw a really interesting take on it. I forget who said it. I will find his name and I will put it on the screen. But there was a guy who said that there should be two different modes, similar to classic and casual mode. There should be a mode that allows you extra missions, like in Birthright, how you can do challenges to grind XP and such, and then a mode where it does not offer you any challenges, and you have to only go through with what you get in the main chapters or any of the side chapters if they choose to do side chapters. Which I'm assuming they will, because how else are we going to get the villager archetype now? Because they're always introduced in the paralogs. That's a joke, by the way. I hate the villager archetype. I hate them so much. I never use them. But yeah, just having a mode that gives you the opportunity to grind and the opportunity not to grind, put it with Conquest's map design, and you have probably the formula for probably one of the best Fire Emblem games gameplay-wise, because it appeals to the more casual players so they can grind. It appeals to the more hardcore players who don't want to grind. So I feel like that's probably the best way to do it, because you have the fun map design, and you have the ability to grind, and you have the ability to just not do that. Or just not grind if you don't want to. And I think that's about it for all the gameplay elements that I want to see. So pretty much return Constitution, weapon durability, bring the magic triangle back, and add something to the current weapon triangle to replace magic and tomes and such. Conquest map design. all that stuff. More limited support pools, and yeah, that's about what I want to say for gameplay. I think this video is approaching 25 minutes now, so I think I'll have to do a separate video on story. But yeah, that's it for gameplay, guys. If I've missed anything, please make sure to put it in the comments. I try my best to read all the comments, and I'll reply. And maybe I might even make a part 2 talking about the stuff I missed. So yeah, until the video on story comes out, which should be soon. I plan on recording these both in bulk. So that'll be it, guys. So my name is Amberstorm. I hope you guys are having a great day, and I am out.